Hey.
We can hear you.
Yeah, I was like, what happened? It was a delay. Well, anyway, welcome to our show. Another lovely episode, Unfiltered and Intentional, where we're able to talk about topics and we're able to just see how we can help the community in any way possible. I'm gonna pass it over to Liz because she's so lovely. I introduced.
Okay, got it. That's how we're starting the show. And so, hi, ladies. Thank you so much for being on the show. I know he is going to introduce you guys a little bit more formally, but audience out there, you guys know the drill. Please like, subscribe, and share. We appreciate you. We enjoyed this time with you. We want to continue to grow. Um, So get it out there. We are on Twitch TV. We're
Yeah,
on YouTube and
yeah.
Facebook. You can find us on Cash App. Help us out. And so you've got the there you go. We are $ unfiltered 2022. So
Mm.
anything that you guys can do to help us grow, sharing the link, sending $1, we appreciate you regardless. Thanks for joining us on Sunday nights.
Yes, and you forgot we're on Twitter too, so that's a really good
On
thing as
Twitter,
well.
yes, that's right.
Yes, we're trying to find
So,
platforms possible, definitely. Um, but once again, like Liz said, thank you for tuning in. We're going to introduce these lovely ladies that are on our platform just in a second. But I do know that we have some news. I always come through with the current topics, but now we have a little special thing with current events with Kia.
current events with
Um,
Kia.
yeah, right. So unfortunately, we have had some deaths. We talked about Betty White the last show, if I'm not mistaken. But Sidney Pardia died. He definitely was a icon. A Hollywood icon. Born in 1927. He died at the age of 94, and he definitely was a trailblazer for setting a lot of different stages and the breaking barriers for African American actors. I just found out a second ago that Bob Saget from Full House died. I'm just like, well, what the hell? Like, Liz just told me, and I'm like, wait, not Bob. But yes, from American, what's it called? Funny Videos. I also think he played
America's
it as
Funniest
well.
Home Videos. Yep.
Yeah. So definitely, I guess that just happened a couple of seconds ago, or whatever. So that's breaking news there. I'm not going to mention the names of these monsters, but the three men in the assassination of Ahmaud Arbery, they were convicted, they were tried, and sentenced to life in prison. Only one gets the possibility of parole, but hopefully he won't make it because they got something for him in there. But no, I'm very, very happy this time the justice system was in our favor, which it hardly ever is, but I'm very happy on that. Um, Another terrible thing that happened, 60 people today were injured in the Bronx. 19 people were dead, and 9 children of those 19 in a big, massive fire. And they're still developing reports on that. So definitely keeping those families in prayers because, I mean, it's cold. You're losing families, you're losing lives. It's definitely a terrible thing. And then transitioning over to introduce our guests, I want to talk about we got Flu Rona, Deltatron, and IHU, which has 46 mutations to it. Um, Unfortunately, I guess there's going to be um, variance every second of the hour. I mean, there's nothing that we can change about that, but I'm definitely here to talk about health and wellness, and I'm glad that I have these lovely ladies here with me, and I'm about to do some introductions, if I may. Definitely, you give us a little bit more of your feedback. Miss Laura and Miss Tashia, Miss Nicholson. Um, I met you ladies on a social media platform. It was like
Yeah.
holistic medicine. I can't even remember the title, but I just wanted to know the journey that African American women or men were taking in reference to becoming healthier. And it didn't have to be through food, it could be through spirituality, it could be through just reading more, meditation, just what your pathway was. And definitely, I ran into different individuals, but you two were like, hey, let's talk about this. And I'm so happy just earlier saying thank you for just sharing your information and your story. So, if I can start with you, Laura, your process and your journey in reference to holistic healing and health, where did it all start from you? I know you told me a little bit when we were speaking on the phone about your health. Can you give us a little bit of information on that?
So yeah, I've been a nurse for approximately 16 years. And like I was sharing with you, I've always been on the reactive side of nursing. I've been taking care of people with diseases. They've got cancer, hypertension, diabetes, high cholesterol, and I'm there to help them through all that. And also, I was a hospice nurse for 7 years, so people
Wow.
who have cancer and things like that. But I got kind of burnt out. And even in my current role, I work as an occupational nurse in a manufacturing company. And what I started seeing is that I have people coming to me who are having workplace injuries. But as I start to do my nursing assessment and talking to them, and I'm asking them, what's your significant past medical history? Without fail, I would say 90% of them have hypertension,
Mm,
diabetic, and they have high cholesterol. And these things can be managed or even cured through your diet. And I had to go through this diet, this myself because I was going to the doctor. I'm not on any type of medications, but I would go get my wellness check every year. And one year, the doctor told me my cholesterol was high. And you, as being in the African American community, it's almost like, it's okay. My cholesterol is high. And I'm not gonna stop eating. I'm not okay. Um, but and I didn't. She wanted to put me on medication, but I didn't want to do it at the time. But as I started to research and started looking at different things, I realized that I can control my cholesterol through my diet. This seemed to be like a mind blowing thing to me. Like, oh, you mean I don't have to take medication? I can actually control my cholesterol through my
wow.
diet. So, what I did was for 30 days, I stopped eating meat.
Mm,
And I went back to my doctor, and my total cholesterol dropped by 10 points. It still wasn't enough for her to be like, well, I still, she's like, well, I still think you should be on medication. I said, but my points dropped. So you see, it's my diet, right?
mm-hmm.
It's unfortunate that doctors and nurse practitioners, they don't get the training on diet or nutrition that we think they do. We think they're experts on that, but they are not. And so when I came to her and was like, well, don't you think I should just try eating better? She basically didn't know anything to tell me. All
Mm,
she knew was to give me medication. And so I opted out of that. I was like, no, I'm not going to take medication. So that started me on my journey, being vegetarian right now. And my quest, my ultimate goal is to be vegan completely. It's difficult, but it is a journey and it can be done. So that's what I want to start teaching people. It's a journey. It's not, you don't try to get to perfection. What you try to do is perfect your progress. And
mm.
so it was difficult for me to give up my chicken wings. I love chicken wings, okay? But I love myself more.
I
You
know that's
understand?
right.
I love myself more. And so if we could get, especially our community, to love themselves more and just think about it, just try to think about how you can love yourself more. You don't have to have high cholesterol. You do not have to have diabetes. You do not have to have hypertension or high blood pressure just because your grandma and them had it. You don't have to do that. You can control what you put inside your body, and you are the master of your own healing. Your body is meant to heal, but you have to give it a chance to heal. You understand? So I'm hurting myself by eating all these processed foods, these high sugar foods, these, you know, all these animal products and byproducts.
Wow.
And it's, you have to ask the question, do you really love yourself?
Yes,
And
thank
this
you for
is
that.
part of my journey.
No, no,
And
no,
me
thank you for
helping
that.
other people.
And I have so many questions to dive in, and definitely we're going to go to the comments as soon as we introduce Ms. Nicholson. Can you please let us know a little bit about your journey? We're going to have some questions and all that, but just trying to pace it. Can you tell us about where it all started with you?
The Genesis story, because it's kind of a whole non sequitur story when you get into it. But like Laura, I think when I realized that I could shape the reality that is my health is when I was going through a lot of mental health issues. I've been diagnosed with PCOS. They had me coming in. They went to put me on all these types of medications, metformin, things of that nature. And I think at that point, like Laura said, your body wants to heal. And I've always kind of been fascinated with this vessel that is the human body and just how well it is designed to really take care of itself if you take care of it. So I went and started doing my own research about how can I naturally heal PCOS without taking a lot of these medications. Because again, when you start taking some of these medications, you become dependent on them over time. And so my thing was, let me eliminate the amount of foreign material I'm putting in my body and see first before I go this route. If there's a way that I can go ahead and do my research to kind of heal myself. And like Laura, I went on ahead and kind of changed my whole diet for a period, probably like 60 days. Leading up to that, I had a cyst that had completely just burst, and I ended up in the hospital. And then they wanted me to then come back and forth every month to get these ultrasounds done to see, what was the state of the other cysts that were going on. And they were when I passed up on the medication, and they were like, "Are you sure? Let's. I don't feel like we're at that road, so let's cross the road when we get to it." And when I came back to the doctor, I think 45 days after that for another one of the ultrasounds, every cyst was gone. And I
Hmm.
think that was kind of the I think that kind of sent me like wanna like I could absolutely do this. Like wait a minute, I just healed myself. Like you know what I mean, without the help of medicine. Um, and I think that's kind of where it started. So I absolutely tell people that food is medicine. Healing most times ends at the end of your fork, and I am living, walking proof of that. Instead of just healing myself from PCOS. And
Mhm.
then there's a lot of other stories that kind of follow along on the heels of that in terms of like how I ended up in herbalism and whatnot in terms of just trying to continue that healing process and making sure that I'm taking care of my body so it can take care of me.
That's
Mhm.
awesome. Before we get into act, because I'm gonna have questions for 1,000 years. I just get to talking. Um, I do need to get to the comments that chimed in. They're
Mhm.
they're just greetings, so it's great.
So we got a few greetings. It feels like roll call. I love this. So Cash chimed in. Hello, everyone. Hey, Cash. And so Earl says, Happy New Year, y'all.
Happy New Year to
You
you.
got to get that y'all in there. You know what I mean? And so a Facebook user chimed in. Hey, fam. Back
Hey,
at you. And so Miss Shannon chimed in with good
good
evening.
evening.
So Alistair's there. He said, Good evening, everyone. Happy New Year.
Yes, yes.
So he said, Let's go. He's ready to get this year started.
Yes.
So, oh man, we got a Facebook user that said, Wow, Bob.
I know
Right?
that was just out of the
Wow.
blue. Like,
Yeah,
wow,
yeah.
yeah,
We can't have you be the bearer of bad news every week.
yeah, no.
So Z says, Good evening, everyone. Good evening,
Hey.
Z.
Oh, Cash came back with the Happy New Year. We get it, Cash. We love
Yeah.
you. Bye.
And he said, Happy New
Yes,
Year.
Happy New Year to you.
Toya said, Great evening, Queens.
Great
Yeah,
So,
evening.
great evening back at you. And then Cash is chiming in. I believe he was speaking about the high
I call it.
cholesterol.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, he says, Yeah, I'm at the high cholesterol stage. And we had another Facebook user chimed in and says, I need to get back on keto. So, whew,
Yeah,
question.
that was a full one, but I do need to start asking those questions. So definitely for you, Laura, is there a conflict when you have, you're working in the field, you have this background as a nurse, so of course they're teaching a lot about, conventional medicines and these things. Of course sometimes there'll be nutritions in there, but have you ever got feedback from people who are like, I don't do none of that healthy eating? I mean, not even per se healthy eating, but they're not per se talking the same language in reference to being a vegetarian, or they give you pushback. I mean, because it's still the health field, right?
Right. Yeah. Well, like I said, I'm an occupational health nurse right now, which means I work in a manufacturing company where they produce farm equipment. Okay. If that gives you an idea that my audience, the people that I deal with. Okay. These are people who are, my grandma eats this way. My mama cooked it like that. That's how I'm gonna do it, Miss Laura. So I get a
Uh,
lot of that. But I think the best way to get to people is to live by example. You see, because I try to take care of myself very well. And people are always like, oh, they're shocked at how old I am. I'm 47. I take care of my body very well. And then they want to know, well, how can I do that? So I try to be a living example because sometimes you can't get to people just telling them the words. You got to live the life. And but I do get a lot of pushback, especially from the African American community. How can you not eat pork chops? What do you burn? What do you eat at the barbecue? Things like that. But it can be done. My main goal in life is to teach people to love themselves. Whatever that looks like to you, whatever it is that makes your body work and heal and makes you glow, how can you love yourself? Because I think that's just I think it's just when I see the health issues and the depression and all that, that is just a symptom of a lot of people not loving themselves. So
mm,
I just try to be an example of how I can love myself. Now, have I always been like that? Absolutely not. That's the other thing. I haven't always been like that. And people who have known me, that's also a testimony for their health, for my health, is that Laura has not always been like this. And see
mm,
what you can do. You see what you can do. It doesn't matter how old you are, it's never too late. You can actually do it. You don't have to just succumb to what your life. You know what I'm trying to say? You
mm,
can overcome all of your issues and problems. If it's high cholesterol, depression, I used to have depression really bad. I've overcame that with diet and exercise and a lot of other things, but you can overcome it. Your body is meant to heal. That
mm,
means your mind, your body, your spirit. You can heal all of those things.
mm,
So I just
mm.
try to be an example. Even I know pushback is coming, but I try to be an example.
Thank you for that, Liz.
Mhm.
I don't want to steal the thunder, Liz, and start talking. Go. Do you have any questions, Liz?
Oh man, no, it's okay. I'm receiving information right now, but
Yeah.
I get it. Thinking with Laura for just a minute, and it's funny because the very last time I went to the doctor, recently actually, it was mostly because I just had an unbearable stomach ache. And you won't believe they put me through every test, and I mean every test. They were probing parts of me that probing, and I'm gonna leave it at that. And everything else, no one ever asked me what I had for lunch that day at all. I couldn't tell you how many different people saw me. I went to the emergency room, and I mean, I saw nurses, doctors, medical assistants, ultrasound technicians. I mean, and you're talking about a span of 4 hours, and not one person for a stomach ache bothered to say, "Hey, what you eat today?
Mhm.
Did you eat
Well,
today?" I mean, you would think that that's as basic as possible, and
no.
I literally left, and I came home and I spoke to my husband about it, and I said, it's weird. I mean, clearly, I didn't think it was something I ate necessarily, but wouldn't that be where you would start?
I mean, they're not taught. Doctors are not taught in their hours of training. I think hundreds of hours of training. They're only taught less than 4 hours for nutrition, and so it
Wow.
is not going to be the first thing that they ask you.
I mean,
Um,
but did you
you have
eat
to change the
everything?
conversation.
So,
So
like, I don't know.
I gotta ask you this question, Miss Nicholson. I just wanted to know from you, and I know we talked a little bit offline. I mean, and I know I don't want to. I don't want to throw conspiracies out there, even though I do believe it, whatever, and then, we could give each other the wink. But do you believe, in your personal opinion, that they're kind of all in bed with each other? You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of like you have the pharmaceutical industry, because you literally have proof of people who are able to heal themselves. And the reason why I throw this question at you, because you said you went for the piece, is it PCOC, right? Polyosmotic.
PCOS.
Yeah,
PCOS.
I had that. I was diagnosed with that. I want to say 7 years ago. Said I couldn't have any children. I already had two, but I couldn't have any more children. I bled out for 6 months straight. They put me on Prevera. 6 months straight. I
Mhm.
remember them calling me on the job, and they said to me, "Are you at your job?" And I'm like, "Yeah." They said, "You need somebody to drive you home," because that's how weak I was. They was like, "Because you're
Mhm.
not going to be able to drive, and you're going to pass out any minute, because you're just, your blood cells is just so low and everything." And I remember going to the doctors and they just want to give me more medicine. And I'm like, something has to give. How does a person bleed out for 6 months straight, like a stuck pig? And with that being said, I took chastity berry, red raspberry leaves, and I took it as it on the bottle is like 2 times a day. And I took it for about a good 3 months straight. I got rid of all the cysts, and I have a little 5-year-old running around downstairs. Now, when the hospitals talk about, hey, black women, I know we have ovarian cysts, we got to do better, try this new stuff. I'll come on there and be like, well, I took chastity berry and red raspberry leaves, and they'll literally say, excuse me, ma'am, and they'll block me off. I have literally been kicked out of forums when trying to promote stuff. Now I'm gonna ask you, because you've had that situation where you were able to heal yourself. Is this like a big conspiracy? Are they all in bed together with the pharmacy and the corporations? I mean, what is your personal opinion on that?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes,
Yeah.
Makes
yes,
sense.
yes.
So fun fact, I worked in biopharmaceutical industry for 15 years.
Wow.
It it was kind of a conflict of interest when you're looking at all of these drugs being pushed at
Right.
people, and you have like this whole thought that everything is there's
Mhm.
a fruit or herb or something for everything that cures you. Um, yes, they are all in bed together. People being sick is one of the biggest money makers in this country.
So true.
So there's no profit in healing people.
Right.
Mm, mm,
Um, you
Right.
can't get rich if people are not running around
that's
with
right.
with illness. It just can't happen. And we live, unfortunately, in a capitalistic society that is always going to put profit before people.
Right.
And I think that's why it is imperative that we take control of our own bodies, our own health, and start to do our own research.
Mhm.
Because I don't think there. I think my opinion, and we talked about this, is that there is a herb that can cure everything. You know, there's something out there for all of it. I don't think there's a coincidence in any of it. But a lot of us don't take the time to really um, to sit down and read and or to ask questions, or we're trusting the doctors to basically have our wellness in their best interest. But again, they're getting paid by the insurance companies. I worked for a speakers bureau for 15 years, where you have doctors who get paid up to $150,000 a year to promote a certain drug. They don't
Mm,
necessarily believe in it,
mhm.
but it's lucrative.
That's right.
So, when that's what's going on, like I said, it's imperative that you take, your health into your own hands and
Mhm.
figure out alternative ways of getting healthy. And alternative ways might mean a marriage between, medicine and, holistic or alternative ways of doing it. But to just take at face value what is being
Right.
told to us sometimes is very, very
That's
dangerous.
right.
And again, a lot of these drugs, when you read the fine print on them, or the fine print that isn't on them, what's ultimately happening is that you're creating clients. You're not healing people. You're creating
That's
clients.
right.
People that have to come back month after month after month for a period of time over the course of the rest of their lives to
Yep.
take the drugs to help manage whatever that ailment is that can probably be cured by taking a walk around the daggone block and eating
That
more
part.
fruits and vegetables.
well, here's the
That
kicker.
part
Here's
right
the kicker,
there.
and
Yes.
I gotta put it out there. Sorry to interrupt, because when we talk to our community, we
Mhm.
know Big Mama, right? We know Uncle Leroy. We know certain people who are not going to get up and take that walk, right? And I know I've been told from so many people, like, we're on our own journey. You got to let them go. But we still have feelings, right? We still love our Auntie Sue or Uncle Bob or whoever they are. I mean, is there any way, or how do you guys deal with when you have that Auntie Sue that has 30 different types of pills that they have to take, and one's dependent, they're very dependent, they get withdrawal, they don't even take it. I mean, how do you even suggest, like, what are the little steps that you guys take just to kind of, I know you said, Miss Laura, that you just live by example, but sometimes don't you think some people need a little bit more push,
Oh,
or do
yes.
you leave a little pamphlet on the table like,
Yes.
do it?
So,
Type of.
yeah, so when people start telling me they have hypertension or they got high blood. They don't know what hypertension is. High blood pressure. I got the sugars,
Mhm.
things like that. Then I ask them, okay, so what's your numbers? Okay, you got diabetes. What's your A1C? I
Mm-hmm.
don't know. Okay, when you went to the doctor and he told you you had hypertension, you have high blood pressure, what was your readings? I don't know. So I start asking them questions because a lot of people take, like what Miss Nicholson said, the doctors, whatever the doctor said at face value. They
Mm-hmm.
think doctor is God. You're sick, you need these pills. Okay, doc. But they don't want to ask the questions. Hey, what are my numbers? What can I do to get my numbers down? So I always put people's health as their responsibility back on them.
Mm-hmm.
I know Auntie whatever has taken 50 million pills, but what is this pill for? What is your numbers? What, I mean, did the doctor discuss with you how to bring your hypertension down? So I put it back on them. They need to go back to the doctor. They need to ask questions. But these are things that people don't tell them to do. When you get your lab report, don't let them just tell you the numbers. Get the paper. Get the paper and then go research yourself because knowledge is power. So once you get people to realize they have some power, they can actually ask questions, they
Mm-hmm.
start to move a little bit. Oh, well, let me, Miss Laura said, go ask you these numbers. So that makes the doctor say, okay, well, maybe, start making the doctor think too. We ain't just going to give them some medicine. We're going to try to educate them. But you
Mm-hmm.
get that piece of paper. I know so many people that go to the doctor. I got my labs drawn. I got this test. Okay, what's the numbers? Where's the paper at? I don't know. They just told me to take this pill. No, knowledge is power. And once you start empowering people, they change.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I think we
It's
also have to
interesting.
remember just how powerful we are as human beings.
Mm,
Like
Mm-hmm.
we are it this whole concept of being a human person is just it's so powerful. Um
yes.
and like our brains are like computers, our bodies are built to
Mhm,
heal, like death
mm,
you're finding out is not even, when they call the time of death, it's not even death because your cells are still trying to like regenerate and do whatever they need to do to survive. It's just not enough
Yep.
there to keep it going. So like when
yes.
you learn these things, when you read these
Yeah.
things, like you start to recognize, like, I am more than what somebody can tell me I am.
That's
Mm-hmm.
right.
you know. And Ms. Laura,
Mm-hmm.
what you were saying earlier, what is so important, every time I've gone to get blood work, I am, and or if they give me medication, that little white paper they put on it, good for that. I'm going. We live in an information, age,
Yes,
so I
now.
am
Yeah.
doing all of the research on my own to figure out what's not on this paper that I need to know.
That's right.
What are
Yeah.
alternatives, in terms of what it's trying to do that I can try and do, try to implement into my life
Right.
without taking these medicines. Like it
That's
is,
right.
it again, we live in an information and age. So it should be unacceptable for all of us to just take anything that's thrown at us at face value and just take it and run with it.
What
That's
what would
right.
be the motivating words for somebody who may be afraid? Because when you're stepping into a new chapter in your life, hey, I'm hearing this show. They say that they're vegetarians and they trying to become vegans, but all this seems new. I know that you said you just pick up the book or the Google something and you get that information, but how do you talk to that person? Just having a conversation in reference to just they're afraid, because a lot of times we do live in fear of the unknown.
But I think that
Yeah.
is one of the main. Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I think, going back to kind of what was said by both of us earlier, knowledge is power.
Mm,
So to thwart that fear, once you get more information and you're able to feel empowered to make decisions for your own, you feel like you have more power over yourself.
mhm,
And
Mm-hmm.
that in and of itself is going to help eliminate some of that fear.
Okay.
mhm,
So I think start doing your research and know thyself is,
mm.
one of those things that you can definitely do to help, minimize the amount of fear that goes into, some of even the scariest health situations.
That's right.
What was you
Agree.
gonna say, Miss Laura? What was you gonna say?
I was gonna say on the other side of fear is always something greater. Do you know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
every Anytime I've been afraid to do something, I'll be like, okay, I'm just gonna jump in. I gotta do it. I gotta do it. It's always something greater because growth is greater. Learning, being better is greater. So it's not the fear that you just gotta have some courage. That means you're afraid, but you're gonna do it anyway. And so that's what I try to get people to understand. It's okay to be afraid. I'm afraid sometimes, but I know on the other side of fear is something better, and that's what pushes me, So it's okay to be afraid. That's the first thing. It's okay. But on
Right.
the other side, it's so much better. It's so much better.
I
Do you?
mean, to
Go
that,
ahead.
I'm going to chime in real quick. And so, just piggybacking off of what you just said, right? It's so interesting because I in the industry that I work in, it's not health, but a lot of people say to me, "But I'm so nervous about the next step." Right? I'm in kind of a life changing business, if you would, right? And so I'm so nervous about the next step. Nerves are good. That means it means something to you. So I
Mm,
need you to commit to not the nerves, but what it means to you. You know what I
that's
mean?
right.
And fear, really and truly, when you ask people what they're afraid of, they think they're afraid of that diet. They think they're afraid of whatever's on the other side. What they're afraid of is failure.
Mm-hmm.
That's really what they're afraid of. You can literally remove everything else that comes after I'm afraid of. Really and truly, when you're talking about anything that's life changing, they're afraid of failure. And so,
Mm-hmm.
one thing that I say to people, I know that, he asked, what's that motivating thing, right? So fear of failure assures failure. Right. So if you simply analysis to paralysis, if you stay in that spot because you're
Mm-hmm.
afraid, one thing I can guarantee is that you will not succeed. Right? Because you refuse to take the next step, right? So take
Mm-hmm.
baby steps. You don't.
That's right.
Listen, Laura said that you're going toward vegans, right? And so you didn't just
Yeah.
wake up one day and decide that's what it is. You know what I mean?
This
And
ain't hard.
you
But
mentioned like working on herself. I'm pretty sure, and I could be wrong here. You didn't just wake up one day to the next just feeling better. You know what I mean? With these magically gone cysts, it
that's
took it
right.
took really work. So
It took
I
some.
mean, take your baby steps and be grateful for the fact that you took another step today.
That's right.
That's the accomplishment.
Can you explain? Oh, go ahead, Laura. I'm
I
sorry.
was gonna say, what has been the best thing in all my journey? I have a lot of journeys I'm on: the health journey, mental journey, spiritual journey. I'm all types of journey. What I
Hmm.
had to realize was I'm not in competition with anybody.
Girl,
It's me. I
it's
just
right
look at
there.
myself and say, Laura, today you got to be better than you
Yep,
was yesterday.
that's
Thank
it.
you. And that's it. You don't see people worry about what other people think. Ain't nobody thinking about you. So just keep
Oh
moving
no.
forward. Fall in love with the progression, not the
Hmm.
perfection. And then you
Right.
can move forward. And when you look back a year later, dang, I did that. Stop comparing yourself to other people.
I'm so
That
glad
that
you
is the main key.
I'm so glad you mentioned that, Laura, just because of the fact when you're in situations, you're looking around, who's looking at you,
Ain't
and
nobody
I tell my oldest, and nobody's thinking about you, and there's
no,
nobody
ain't
thinking
nobody came to
about you
see
at
you,
all.
Otis. Nobody came to see you. Ain't
No,
nobody came.
but when you realize that and you start changing your mindset and your lifestyle, even if you're taking the baby steps, I commend you because a step is a step, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
it
Um,
is.
I say that you'll end up finding people who are in the same mindset as you. You
That's
know,
right.
I was saying like, "Hey, I'm a prepper." And Miss Nichols said, "I am too," and we're screaming on the phone, "Ah!" But it's just so funny because growing up, I was like that black sheep. You're like, "You're into alternative what?" The devil is a lie. And I'm like, oh,
Oh
okay, I
Lord.
guess it's the
Mhm.
devil.
That's
Because
right.
that being growing up in Harlem and you talking about, I mean, as a kid, my mother would bring me blue chips, rice cakes, all types of healthy food. And you're in a black neighborhood. They looking at you. Where your Doritos? Why the chip blue?
That's
And I'm
right.
like, no, there's corn at the blue. And they were like, no, I would get
Mm,
beat
nobody
up
that.
on because nobody.
That's right. That's right. Find your tribe, sisters. Find your tribe.
Right.
Let
And
me go.
Laura, the one thing I wanted to also add to what you said, because that was so on point, is that when you're going through a journey, and I think this is what I had to learn from myself, is that you have to give yourself grace,
Mm,
throughout it,
Said
because
that. Said
every
that.
day is not going to be three steps forward. Some days
Right.
might be a few steps back, but you have to
mhm.
allow space for that to happen as well, and just pick up where
Yeah.
you left off and just try to do better
Yes.
in the next
I
moment.
love that.
So
I
Yeah.
yeah, I
love
think
grace.
I would
You
add
should give
that
me some
to it
more
as well.
stats on that one,
Give
Miss
yourself
There's
Nichols.
a
grace.
word there.
Yes.
Read some.
Yes. I love that.
All right. So Latoya said, I love that, Liz. That's so true. Fear is what causes people to get stuck as well. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the fear. And so, and Cash said, that was powerful advice, Laura.
It
Indeed.
was. It was. And you know what? And it hits differently. Sometimes you got to hear it from a different person. Maybe it's the way they
Right.
said it, the tone, but ain't nobody thinking about you. And
Ain't
it's
nobody thinking
true.
about
Like, I be looking at myself and like, man, ain't nobody called me today. Am I popular? I don't know what the hell. Nobody like me. But it's true. I mean, yeah, people do like
you
me,
gotta
but
like yourself. You gotta like yourself, sis. You gotta love yourself.
yeah,
And when you start, whoo, I feel this right now. When you start loving yourself, it don't
yes,
matter what nobody else think or whoever love you. Because when you start loving yourself, it just don't matter. It don't matter.
yeah. Wow. Miss
And it's
Nicholson, are
contagious.
you able to explain before we get into your other training that you do have, or even Miss Laura, whoever, in reference to just for the novice, the difference between being a pescatarian, a vegetarian, vegan? You know, sometimes when people are getting into the whole new thing, they're like, "Wait, what? What is?"
So I'm going to turn a lot of the differentiation over to Ms. Laura because she probably knows more of it than I do. I am still very much a meat eater. So let me just put that out there. I think what has changed for me over the years, though, is just the amount of meat that I'm
Okay.
eating. And also just listening to my body more in terms of what it
Yes.
wants or needs. Because if you get
Yeah.
quiet, it'll talk back to you. So I've noticed that over the last 3 or 4 years, um, just there have been times I've just gone through periods where I just don't want any meat whatsoever.
Hmm.
And it will be fish if there's any, meat protein that I take in, or there'll be periods when I was just like, I just want lettuce and tomatoes and, just vegetables, and that'll go on for months at a time, as well. So at this point, I am in the place where I was just like, just listening to myself and letting it, let my body kind of tell me what it needs in that moment, for it to, be at optimal health.
Okay.
Hmm.
Can you explain to us, Miss Laura, then the difference between you got the vegetarian, pescatarian, and the vegan? I don't know if there's any more.
So yeah, so there's pescatarian. Pescatarians generally take in fish and seafood
Okay.
and no other type of meat like chicken, beef, poultry, no poultry. And then you have what I am, a lacto ovo vegetarian, which or yeah, vegetarian, which means I take in certain milk products and eggs. I try to limit that. I really don't like to do that, but it's hard because sometimes I'll be running that chocolate chip cookie and that's got eggs in it and I eat it. Okay. So
Give yourself grace, girl.
that's what I do. Give myself some grace. And that's gonna be my new motto. I'm giving myself some grace. Vegan is totally no animal products whatsoever, not even like honey, and it's generally I'm gonna say more like political, like they don't wear any animal products like
Oh wow.
leather or anything like that. So
Oh,
really, I don't know if I want to go totally vegan, maybe more plant-based where you just eat total plants and no meat. I don't have a issue at this time of my life wearing leather. I don't know, that might change, but that's where I'm at in my journey.
okay. Thank you for that information there. I do have some
Mhm.
questions that came in here.
And so Cash said, are there nutritional things that you guys suggest to cut back on first?
I would say first, high fructose corn syrup. Get that out of your diet ASAP because sugar is going to kill you faster than almost anything.
Mhm.
It's poison.
It's okay. She over there holding her head.
It's
Give
poison.
yourself grace.
Right. That's the theme for tonight.
Baby steps.
Get it out your diet. So to the extent that you can cut out sodas, to the extent
Yes.
I
that you
don't
can cut
drink soda.
out, a lot of sugary drinks. Sugary drinks
Yes.
are actually the ones that get you that they
Yes.
sneak up on you because you don't even realize how much sugar you're taking in through these beverages. But
Yes.
they're putting weight on your stuff on your
Yes.
midsection.
Causing
Um,
inflammation.
causing
Just
inflammation. They are
sugar is
flooding
horrible.
your body with sugar, and making your kidneys and your liver work harder. So that would probably be the first thing I would suggest people cut out of their diet.
What about you, Miss Laura?
I'm gonna say don't cut it out. Add more water. My gosh, please, can y'all please drink some water,
Oh, I
please?
love it. It's so good.
Look at y'all. Look at
I
you.
love water. Water's so
Listen,
tasty.
I
Mm.
don't understand. That's like your body is made up of what, 70% water? It helps our body to function, our cells to function properly, our digestion, our heart to beat better, our skin to glow, our joints to move better. Just
Mhm.
drink, start by drinking some water. And what I generally tell people is take your body weight and divide that by half. And that's how many ounces you should really be drinking. That seems like a lot, but that's what your body needs to function properly, to remove waste, to help in digestion, all of that. Start there. Drink some water.
I'm glad you said that. I've met people who they say they just started drinking water, and I'm like, you ask them their age, and they're like in their 30s and 40s. I'm like, you just started, like, my God. But, I mean, no knock to nobody. But the interesting thing is, even if you didn't believe or you thought it didn't taste good or just whatever the scenario is, I noticed that you could just look at your skin. Like
Mhm.
some people's skin be popping. Like, man, is that the sun on your face? And the other people,
Right.
you be like a gray shadow, and I don't know what's happening. I'm like, you need some water. Can I drink it for you? Like, that's how bad. I'm
That's
sorry.
right.
I went on a tangent. I'm sorry.
There's
Yeah.
one more thing that I would add.
Environment.
It's not nutritional, but I think it would be a lifestyle change, and that would be to eliminate microwaves. I cannot emphasize enough.
Girl, yes, say it again.
My
Say that
mother's probably doing. My
again.
mother's probably doing a standing ovation. She hates my face.
Stop using microwaves, y'all. They are killing you. Like seriously, the fact that microwaves put off radiation even when they're not in use. The fact
That's,
that microwaves can change the molecular structure of water. I
that's
mean,
true.
if you take, I just made a TikTok post about this the other day. Like somebody told me they were making herbal tea with microwave water, and my head almost spun around like the poltergeist. Like, what?
Please
What
That's
are
why
stop.
you
there's no
doing?
nutritional
What are
value.
you
They don't get that
doing?
they're taking away the nutritional value.
And the
The
other,
radiation
if
still
you
gets.
pour that microwave water into your house plant, it will die. So do you know, like, think about what is going on your inside. So yeah, I would just say, like,
Ooh.
lifestyle change, get rid of the microwave, y'all.
I'm gonna look into that because I was not aware of that. And that's funny that you say that because I always prefer using my tea kettle over the
Mm.
microwave.
Right
Why?
there.
I'm like, this don't even taste
Absolutely.
right.
Because it's nothing. It's
And I'm
just,
like,
it's
well, how
it.
could it be different? Maybe it's just in my mind. I really thought
It's
it was
not
just
in your
in my
mind.
mind. Like
No,
I
it's a
like my
real
tea
thing.
kettle
Oh
better.
yeah,
I did not know that.
my mother
Look
growing
at
up, I
that.
didn't. There were a lot of people who had microwaves, especially when they were coming out in the '80s and everything. And I'm like, Mom, can we get one? And no, and she would always say it's because it was just bad for you. And even when my mom was living with me at one time, when heating up food, she'd put it in a toaster or what, like the conventional way. I'm
Yeah.
like, well, just put the thing in the microwave. She's like,
Uh-uh.
popcorn. She'd do it the old school, and she'd be doing it.
Me too.
No,
That's
and
how I
just
That
still make
popcorn
popcorn.
good. That popcorn good
Yep.
though.
Popcorn
yeah.
is biohazardous. Like,
Yes.
seriously, you guys should look up if you eat that stuff that comes
Oh
in
yeah,
those
it's not good
bags.
to
The
digest.
bag itself is a carcinogen.
That's
The
Yeah.
right.
bag.
It's so interesting because we could literally sit, and that's like a whole nother show within itself in reference to the food industry. And
Yeah.
it's so funny because even how I'm phrasing this show, we could read between lines and we could apply it to certain things, but there's certain keywords I can't even really talk about because
Get the pill
YouTube will
taken right
flag
off
the
the
shit out
screen.
of me. The YouTube is
Yep,
like, oh, you talked about the health. Anytime I talk about health, they be like, oh.
absolutely. Fact.
Hmm. Didn't know
Yep.
that.
So,
So
But
yeah,
that's
you
so
sort of like,
interesting to share what you bring up because I didn't think about that. I absolutely believe that, but it never even clicked in my head that that microwave is causing damage to my body, right?
mhm,
So then you start thinking about what other things are causing damage to your body. That's what I need people to see and understand. Start looking around because the more damage that's happening to our bodies, it's harder for our bodies to heal. So if
right.
outside forces are damaging our bodies, and then we're eating stuff that's damaging our bodies, how can we heal? What, how can we sit here and say, oh, I wonder what, I mean, we sit here saying, why are we sick? That's why you're sick. But I didn't even think about the microwave. So I'm gonna start
yeah.
looking around at other things. That is very eye-opening to me.
Girl, I
Thank
said
you.
that's a
Get a
whole
toaster
nother
oven.
episode. Take up
That's a
another
whole
time.
nother episode.
Get a toaster oven. So like I said, awesome Miss Laura and Miss Tashia. We are often our own worst critic. We wouldn't be friends with ourselves if we really paid attention to how we talk to and doubt ourselves. This is true.
Wow.
We wouldn't be our own friends. So
That's interesting
yeah.
you say that. At this moment, I would be my own friend. Back then, I'd be like, you trifling as hell, kid. Wait
You know what? That was funny because I actually had somebody point out to me once, and I think that was like the wake up call for me to really become conscious about how I talk to myself. That was
Mhm.
like you are so critical and so harsh when you talk to yourself, and then you
Right.
start paying attention to it, and it was like, well, do I like me? like,
Do you like
Right,
yourself? Don't you
right,
like
right.
and then I have to start making a conscious effort to like really like
Yeah.
how am I talking to myself? What are the
Yeah.
conversations I'm having internally and actively change it. But yeah, that's very true. That's very
So
true.
I just want to point out, like I'm in therapy. I think every black person, I think everybody should be in
You better
therapy, but
say it one more
especially
time. Say it for people to
women. Black women should we should all be in therapy. But I was in therapy and I was talking to my therapist about how I talk so critical to myself. And I said, you know what I did? I named her. I named
Mhm.
this voice in my head. I named her
Mm.
Karen.
Oh,
And she get to talking. Yeah, you know you can't do that. You know you
Black
did.
Karen.
You know how
Good.
Karens are. I don't know why you trying to do that. Why you trying to better yourself?
Oh
Just
no,
keep it
Karen.
together, girl.
You call a manager on yourself?
Yeah. So I started talking to her. Be like, Karen, shut up, Karen. First of all, you don't even know what you're talking about. And the more I did that, addressed her. I know this sounds crazy, but it worked. The more I addressed her as, hey, you don't know what you're talking about. I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm doing good. I love myself. I don't like you, you go away. She quieted. And I
Mm.
know that sounds so bizarre,
It
but
doesn't.
I
It doesn't.
realized
It
It
doesn't.
does not.
it
Karen
helped me
represents
so
But Karen represents the ego. The ego is the
much.
one who's talking crap and
Yeah.
telling you this. Oh, yes, girl, you better preach.
Yeah, so I just named her, and every time I hear that negative voice in my head, oh, you can't do it, or you this, you that. No, Karen, be quiet, sit down, hush
Yes,
up, take some seats. I
yes,
got this.
Yes.
Right, all right. And so I need to
yes.
name mine Felicia. Bye, Felicia.
Yeah, I like
I love
that.
that. I named
That's
mine.
her
Well,
name,
I think my family named me. Mine's is Kiki. And
Kiki.
when Kiki get to step, I'll be like, oh Lord. I try not to let Kiki out, but Kiki kind of wild.
Tell
But
her
be,
to take 1,000 seats. Be like, girl, be quiet. Hush, hush,
Yep.
hush, girl.
I,
but oh, go ahead.
I will say I had the strangest moment of illumination, if you guys get what I mean, right? And so here I was at the grocery store during this whole craziness that's been happening in the last 2 years. We went and got a puppy. I don't know whose idea that was. It was a bad one, but
Probably was crazy.
but here we go. So I'm at the grocery store and I don't know anything at all about owning a puppy or having a dog, or I take care of humans and that's just me, right? So here I am at the grocery store and I'm trying to buy this puppy food. Do you know how concerned I was with buying good food for my dog?
Mm,
Like, seriously. So here I am. I've done all the research because this is the information age, right? So she has said it, information age. We have no reason not to. And I'm wholly convinced that I'm going to kill this dog. So maybe if I put a little extra work in, I can keep him alive for a couple years. And everybody said, read the container. And if the first ingredient, if you're buying, beef dog food, the first ingredient should be beef. Shocking. If it's chicken dog food, the first ingredient, because on a can, the ingredients go in order by what is used the most in that food.
That's
You
right.
know the same works for human food. It's
Yes,
exactly the same thing. Now it's funny because I've always known that. I do know that. But when's the last time you walked down the canned food section and you grabbed those green beans and you turned it around to see what's on the back of it? For
Mhm.
us, for what we're giving to ourselves and what we're giving to our children, right? That's what I buy. That's what my mother bought. You just go down the aisle and you get that regular stuff. But it's weird because you get to the dog section and here I am reading, oh, beef is the third ingredient. That's not going to work. Oh, this one, chicken's the first ingredient. And that for me, I'm going, since when am I more interested in how I feed my dog
That's
and how
right.
I feed my children? But
That's
but the
right.
thing is, the dog was new, so there was no habit there.
Mhm.
Myself and my kids, it's habit. I'm gonna make this meal tonight, and these are the ingredients that I need. I need these cans. I need these, these boxes. I need, and I just knew what to go to because those are the brands I've always used, and that's the, so on and so forth. I needed something new to inject the new philosophy, and so now I find myself turning over everything. What's the first ingredient in that? If it's not meat, because I'm a meat eater, I'm with you, Tashia. But if it's not meat, I'm putting it back. If it's supposed to be meat, right? If it's supposed to be, whatever it's supposed to be, stick to that. So that for me in the last couple years was literally just a moment of illumination. Is when did we get more
Mhm.
concerned with how we're feeding our animals than our own
Mhm.
bodies? That's just weird to me.
That's right.
So, I wanted to toss that out there. And then I know that we mentioned dieting a lot. I wanted to ask you guys if either of you ever considered the differences between Eastern and Western medicine, and how do you feel about that? And what can you, what tidbits can you toss out there for the audience?
Yes.
Yes.
I often think about the difference between Eastern and Western medicine.
Hmm.
Just trying to take a more holistic and alternative approach to my own health and wellness. Um, I and I think there needs to be a marriage between the two.
Hmm.
Um, I think there's benefits that can be taken from both. And I think way too, so in a doula, I have a client right now with gestational diabetes, and I think that what made me think about that recently was the fact that their solution for her was to just go ahead and start taking 4 um, vials of insulin a day. Never once mentioned anything to her about taking a walk around the block, or walking for at least 30 minutes a day. Never mentioned anything about the times a day that she's eating and what she's eating and how she's combining those meals. So I definitely think that Western medicine needs to take a page from Eastern medicine in terms of looking at the person as a whole, and not just as a fragmented health issue. Because if just like our society, if there's one system that's out of sync, there's systems around it that are also most likely out of balance as well. So you have to heal it all together in order to have total healing within your body. um the For me, Western medicine takes way too much of an isolated approach to the concept of healing.
Right.
And I think they need to adopt more from Eastern in terms of looking at you as
That's right.
a whole person.
Yes.
Agreed.
Definitely. Yeah, I
Agreed.
do. I agree with that. It's a holistic healing. And it's difficult because we do live in the Western world, and what we were just talking about, how there's so many things that are assaulting our bodies, so many chemicals that we are taking in that are hurting our bodies. Um, it's difficult to say, yes, I want to take this root and this herb to heal this ailment, but we have to also heal our environment as well. Do you know what I'm trying to say? It's like we are, it's a battle. It's very difficult. So that's why Western medicine, I would never advise anybody not to go to the doctor or not to take their medications, because we are living in such a polluted
Yeah.
world. Those things may be necessary, but I would like for people to be more on the Eastern medicine side, because that is our more natural state.
Yes.
We are to live abundantly in health. That's our natural state, but we are not living in a natural society, a natural environment. So that's where Western medicine does, a lot of Western medicine does come in. Some people are just going to have to take insulin. Some people do, we just, they have to do it because of the environment, the food they take in, and how their bodies are polluted, or
Well,
how
I'm
they
glad you
damage their bodies. And it's something that they have to do.
I'm glad you mentioned that. And the reason why, because the environment is so key. So right now you can say, yeah, I want to go ahead and do this and eat right, whatever. And then maybe the neighborhood, maybe everybody in our family. So
Food
you're one
desert.
person, everybody in your family or whoever is making the food for you, or whatever the case may be, especially if you're underage. Maybe in your local grocery store, they don't even have the fresh produce
That's
that you're
right.
needing. And majority of times in the African American community, you're not going to find that. In poor neighborhoods, you're not going to find that healthy stuff that you'll get at Whole Foods, or maybe
That's
it's
right.
overly priced, right?
Definitely.
So now you're trying to say, well, wait a second, these packages of oodles and noodles, man, I could really do something with this versus this bok choy or some
Yeah,
lentils or something like that who can only feed
that's
you one
right.
stuff. So you have to make these decisions. Um,
That's right.
I know we're running short for time. I do want to get to a couple of things right before we go. I know, Miss Nicholson, you are a doula. The statistics are terrible when it comes to the mortality rate when it comes to us women coming into to have, give birth, and we're not leaving. The rates are crazy from 2007 to 2008 to 2015 to 2016. The disparities between our counterparts were over 110%. And this was reported by the CDC. Can you explain a little bit about what that is to be a doula and how this all affects you and reference to your growing and your health and wellness?
Um, so yeah, the statistics are more than alarming, especially when we live in the United States, which is supposed to be, one of the most advanced, um,
Mm-hmm.
societies in the world. Um, it A lot of it, I think, starts with implicit biases within the hospitals. Um, I think it also goes back to what Laura was saying earlier: is that we assume that a lot of doctors and nurses are taught certain things, but it's very much a cookie cutter, type of educational process. There's a lot of things that I've learned as a doula that when I talk to certain nurses who work within, obstetrics, they're like, I never ever knew that. I think some of the ways that we force women to have birth right now is also archaic. The fact that we still have women giving birth laying on their back is mind blowing to me. Like we work against gravity to try and bring, children into the world, and that in and of itself is just, it just doesn't make sense at all.
Mm-hmm.
But going back to implicit bias, I think, and going back to, I think, which would be a whole nother story, just the
Of course.
history of the black woman over time, and how there have been a lot of different concepts of how we are the angry black woman,
Yes, we can
and
take pain.
huh?
We
Oh
can
yeah,
take pain, is
that's
what
we
they
can
say.
take pain. And a lot of times you think that we've kind of, this is all things of the past, but no, a lot of these concepts, a lot of these ideologies still carry on very much into present day.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's
you
right.
have to, I definitely think that, number one, that doctors should be forced, and nurses, everybody who works within the healthcare, practice should be forced to take implicit bias, like quizzes, just to see where you are on the spectrum. Because a lot of people don't think they're racist. I have a black friend. I have this,
Oh,
that, and
don't
the
say you got a black friend. Oh.
other.
Two,
But
two. Yeah, they got
right,
two.
but don't realize that subconsciously, they are carrying over ideologies from their racist great grandmother or
Yeah.
great, racist grandparents that are ultimately impacting how they treat women, especially women of color, when they walk into a hospital setting, when they're trying to advocate for themselves, when they're trying to say that I know something is wrong with my body. And instead of being heard, it's being perceived that they're being difficult.
Yes.
So, I think
Mm-hmm.
that if we start to unpack that, um, you would see a lot. I think that would be the start of change in a lot of areas. I think also, we have to really look at doctors and, girl, this is a whole other story. I'm trying to
I know,
like
I know, I know, I know, I know, I know, I know.
because I could go off on a tangent here.
Yeah, yeah.
But just in terms of, the rate of cesarean sections and inducements in this country,
Most
for
that.
women, especially women of color, and our inability to really, again, the cookie cutter, the rush process of just giving birth altogether, and not really understanding that when you do that, it takes you out of the normal process of the way your body is going to process hormones naturally to
Please
bring them
stop
on
making me
the other
cry.
side.
Please don't make me cry. I had a cesarean, almost died on that table, my last baby. Please.
Yeah,
It,
it's
it's
that
it's very, very true what you're saying. I'm sorry to definitely cut you short. That's a whole nother topic that we could go on, and it is so true and it's impactful, and we have to talk about it. I'm going to read these last comments here before we wrap everything up.
And so Z was speaking to Laura. He said, "Damn, you had Karen in your head. I'm so sorry." So
I had someone
I feel
text
him on
me.
that.
I had someone text me saying I call mine Karen too. Like, oh,
She makes her rounds. You gotta tell
And
her to
so
sit down.
Uncle Lion said, "Hey, everybody.
hey,
Hey,
Uncle
glad you
Lion.
could join us." And he said, "These doctors are no longer honoring the Hippocratic Oath. They are under Big Pharma."
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yep, and in bed with
Yes.
insurance companies.
I do want to say this last thing before we pass the last word to Liz. First of all, I commend you, ladies. Thank you, queens. Thank you, thank you, thank you
You're
for coming on to
welcome.
the show. I mean,
Thank
anytime we
you for
can have,
having us.
yeah, anytime we could be able to give knowledge out and just have this open conversation about what's going on, out there. And you're not alone, right? For people who are on this journey or wanting to start the journey, there is a ton of people out there who feel the same way as you, who are just starting and maybe just want somebody to talk to, like, hey, how did you do it? And what's going on? So they're out there, listeners, people are out there. I did a simple search just to see who was out there, and I'm able to meet these young, beautiful ladies here. I did want to say before we pass it to Liz that Miss Nicholson, you have a book.
I do.
And before I tell the audience about the book that you have, I was screaming because I am a prepper, and this show is about prepping. Because guess what? If some shit goes down, you need to do this in order to be around. A lot of people don't know that. Wait a second. Okay, I got the ammo, I got the this, I got the this. But if your body and your health and your mind ain't together, who cares what you got? You might as
Right.
well, you end up hurting yourself maybe, because of the depression and all types of different things that are going on. So this show indirectly is about prepping your mind, prepping your body. And of course, if first law of preservation itself, if you can't take care of yourself, how can you take care of those little ones? And if you're not noticing, if you're not reading the tea leaves, people, there's a lot of things that are happening, and they're happening as soon as you close your eyes. A new news story. I mean, it's happening. It's happening. So this show is indirectly a prepping your body. But please, Miss Nicholson, tell us about this book. Super,
So
super
the name
excited.
of my book is Camping Noir: The Black Girl's Guide to Surviving a Weekend Unplugged. I originally wrote it to kind of put Black women on the map after being told so many times that Black women don't camp. After I'm
Yes,
telling them I go camping, so basically what it does is it kind of, I think, colorfully narrates my, at that point, 15, now 17 years of camping, and trying to help other women who might be interested in getting started in camping, tent camping, giving you kind of a how to on how to do so. And from it, I've created a group called Camping Noir, which is basically an offshoot of the book where it is Black and melanated women. We go camping, we go hiking, we do other outdoor adventures. So yeah, it's been a very and create sisterhood, and also kind of helps us explore healing through nature. So we didn't kind of talk on that tonight, but I think
girl,
that
we're gonna have you back, girl.
Yeah.
I do believe that nature and nature emergent is a very important component of the healing process,
Mhm.
especially when you're talking about things like anxiety and depression, and other
Mhm.
mental and behavioral health issues. So, yeah, so we explore that, and again, just trying to like build sisterhood and finding like-minded women who are like, part of your tribe.
Yes.
And just having, the conversations that you might not necessarily feel like having with your mama or your friends, because you don't really, you're connected, but you don't really feel like you can just let that part of yourself go. So it's a
And
safe
where
space.
and where can people get this book? Is it on Amazon or
It's
how they
on
reach out?
Amazon. It's also on my website, which is www.tashianicholson.com, my first and last name. So yeah, if you order it through my website, I actually send a signed copy of it. If you go through Amazon, and they send out the copy that they have there.
Okay. I'll go ahead for everybody who's interested, and I'll put it on our page so you can kind of go ahead and just go to her website so you can pull up that book, because we actually have uh the male version, Liz, right, of Black Men That Camp, right, and it was all
Yep.
about that. I know I was telling you, so definitely just knowing, like I said, when you start opening your mind and just being one with nature and just changing your frequency and your vibration, you'll find out all
Mhm.
different types of people. You're like, wait a second, I didn't know you existed, sister.
Yes, you do.
Brother. So
That
no,
is
super super
awesome.
happy with that, and thank you for showing, telling us about your book. We're gonna go for our last comment, and then it's gonna be last words with Liz.
So
What was humble?
let's see. So Humble Lion said it'll be glamping for those who don't like the outdoors.
Oh yeah. I mean, we keep it judged up, you know what I mean? But we're still intense.
Yeah,
We
you
eat
can't
well
forget
while
about
we're
that
out
kind of
there.
thing. You gotta ease in sometimes. You gotta ease
Yes.
in. But come on now, Liz. Last words with Liz, guys.
Whew, all right. So we covered so much tonight. You ladies, thank you. Thank you. Thank you from the bottom of the pit of my heart. Thank you. I love this conversation. And so I'm gonna go out there on a limb here, but we gotta have them back, both of them. Separately, together, don't care. I just need them back. So hopefully you ladies are down. And so we appreciate you. As always, I'm trying to wear a shirt that's relevant. Let me see. Maybe I have to stand a little bit for this one, but maybe target practice shouldn't look like this, right? If you practice shooting at a black man all day, when it comes time to shoot at a black man, it's going to come to you pretty naturally. So we have to retrain our brains, not just with health, but just overall what we're looking at day to day. I think that's important. You guys know I have my Black Future Month initiative going on. So there is a T-shirt that I designed for last February. It is Black History Month, but we really got to focus on the future, right? So those of you that know me know that I believe that the windshield is this big and your rearview mirror is that big. We have to know what's going on, happen behind us, but we have to be very aware of what's happening in front of us. So I designed the shirt for Black Future Month. $5 from the sale of every shirt goes towards purchasing books for a minority college student. We had a nomination from the Unfiltered and Intentional audience last year. I'm looking for nominations again this year. So if anybody out there knows of a deserving college student, it's not based on GPA, it's not based on finances, it's based on you believing in somebody that needs a little bit of help with buying books. So contact me, let me know who it is, help me out, buy a shirt or 3 or 5, right? But thank you so much for your support with that. For one reason or another, I was driving home. I was out and about today, and I was rushing home to get to the show. And for some reason, it started just ringing through my head that we haven't spoken about it for a while. So guys, if you're out there and you're battling any evils, right? So suicide, there's addiction, there's domestic violence. We're in some really strange times in the world. I want to just throw out a couple resources. We're here. It's a sisterhood, it's a brotherhood, it's a family, it's a community. Reach out to us. Don't hesitate. There are professionals. I'm going to point you in that direction too. 211 is an invaluable resource. They'll help you find food. They'll help you pay your bills.
Yep.
They'll help you with finding shelter in some cases. Reach out. They're valuable. You have the hotline for domestic violence is 800-500-1119. I know I speak fast, so that's 800-500-1119. Addiction, if you're battling any type of addiction, drug addiction, alcoholism, anything like that, the number for them is 800-662-4357. Again, that's 800-662-4357. And suicide, heaven forbid, that one's 800-273-8255. Again, guys, you're not alone. You're not in the fight alone. We're rooting for you. We're here for you. Reach out for help. There's no shame in it. I don't know where that came from. I don't know who that's meant for, but I swear, I really hope with everything in me that it reaches you. In the meantime, guys, it is 2022. We are looking out at this broad windshield. There's good things coming for Unfiltered. There's good things coming for each of the ladies on this podcast, for everybody in our family. And I can't wait to see what it brings. So bring it.
Yes,
good,
yes. Thank you,
Awesome.
Liz, for those
good
last
night,
words.
guys.
Thank you, Miss Laura. Thank you, Miss Nicholson. Make sure that you like and you subscribe because we definitely want to give more and more back to the community. So thank you guys once again for tuning in. We love you. Bye.
Bye. Thanks.